Good morning, everyone. It's actually a bit feel like weird to sit and speak. So we usually stand and give presentation, but let's give it a try. All right, so today, well, I'm gonna have two talks. The first talk is like a soft skill talk and mostly my personal experience and my personal story, which happened to me, and I learned a lot from that, and I try to share those knowledge with like different ways, writing blogs or giving talks. And then I realized that a lot of people have the same issue as I had, and they got back to me and they were like, oh, this is interesting, you know. So that's why I'm going to share again once more this story with you, what has happened to me, what I learned, and how I could fail a lot of time and at the end win. And hopefully that will be an inspiring story for you too. So what we're gonna talk today mostly is around, as I said, my story. I'll tell you a brief overview of what has happened, and then I'll tell you what I did about my CV, resume, and the whole process of interviews, and then, well, what you can do, or what I did. I was introduced very well. My name is Majid. I am GDE, Google Developer Expert for Flutter and Dart. I'm very active in Flutter community, and I do a lot of things for community, not just Flutter, mostly around the world, all communities. And I'm also flying from Oslo, Norway, so today to Malaga. Happy to be connected later with you if you found this story interesting. But let's get started. So I shared this story like maybe 8-9 months ago on my newsletter. So the story is that I was living in Malaysia for about 7 years. So I moved to Malaysia in 2010 until maybe 2017. And I'm originally Iranian, so I moved away from my country in 2010 and I went to Malaysia. And I lived there, worked there from the beginning, day one, well, different jobs. And in 2015 maybe, or more or less, I decided to move away from Malaysia as well and go to another country or go for another opportunity. And of course, I had a lot of countries on my list, looking particularly to the Europe or European countries. Not all of them, mostly Western countries, like maybe France or maybe like Germany was on my list, and you know, Netherlands, Belgium. I never thought that I will go to Norway. That's the story I will share with you, though. I never thought that like we have Nordic countries, and I had to look for a job over there as well. So then I was looking for a job, and well, the first thing I did, oh, that's good. So I have a CV. I worked 5 years there and a couple of years back in my country, so a pretty good experience. I'll go ahead and apply. Started finding jobs. Like in Glassdoor, mostly LinkedIn, Stack Overflow for developers, quite, you know, famous. And I found a lot of jobs. Like, in fact, there is no shortage of finding jobs advertisement. Like, you can find a lot of them. And I found a lot of them. And without any thinking, like, immediately started applying for jobs. Like, I had a CV of 2-3 pages. I thought it's like impressive. Wow, I did a lot of things. I need to write a lot. And I started to applying to these jobs, and either I didn't receive any answer, or right after each other it was rejection. Right after each other. No one tells me like, oh, can you come to interview? I'm talking about like around maybe 30 to 40 jobs that I applied back then. And by far, like maybe above 60% did not even got back to me, like even say, hey, you're rejected, we don't want you. And I started to thinking like, oh, what has happened here? So I'm applying for a job, but I don't get a response, or I'm getting rejection. So I'm thinking I'm very good, but they don't even answer. So there is something wrong here. It's either me or maybe something in the process. So started looking at, well, the problem. Why I applied for 30, 40 jobs and no even one answer, or like someone that says come to interview. The first problem, after analyzing, I realized that it's probably my CV. Well, back then I had 3 pages of CVs. Well, I tried to, it was like a trial and fail, so I tried to learn a lot about CVs. So started optimizing my CVs, or I started like reducing some lines, some experiences, and I narrowed it down to 2 pages, at least flip pages, so you can have 2. Again, I continued, nothing happened. Then I started again to learn about CVs. Then how can you make a good CV that is outstanding? Like when a recruiter is looking at, or a company is looking at your CV, they just say, oh, this is it. This is the one that I at least want to talk to that person, right? So after a lot of, research and trial and fail and, going through this process, which was very actually annoying and also disappointing, I realized that, well, probably, this is my personal experience, having a 1-page CV is something that I should work on. So recruiters are not like those persons that have a lot of time, especially for big companies. They just looking at the CV for 30 seconds, or even like there is a saying says 3 seconds time to catching the CV. So if in the first 3 seconds they realize, oh, this is someone that I want, they spend more time on that. And if they cannot find what they're looking for, well, they simply just put that away. So then 1-page CV was something that I had to focus on. I started to understanding like those things that I'm writing to my CV, in fact, they're very important. For recruiters, it really doesn't matter how long I work. It really matters what I have done, like what is the outcome of my work. This is very important for them. Like started writing, oh, I worked in this company in maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. I worked on this project. This was my contribution, and that was the outcome. So I tried to help the company from X to Z, or X to Y, or whatever. So I showed numbers, outcomes, whatever is interesting. And I made these CVs very easy to follow. Like, I'll show you an example at that time. And another thing that I found out is that I was not really honest in my CV as well. So I said that I have maybe 6 years of experience, while everything that I just knew, it was a word that I knew probably, or maybe I have seen once, I also put it in the CV. So, well, if you are in a tech recruitment, or any recruiting, companies, and you've seen a lot of CVs, you know that if someone has maybe 4 or 5 years of experience, it's very easy to find out what is fake in this CV. You cannot have 5 years of experience and say, oh, I am master in all the clouds, all the Docker, blah, 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 blah. It takes years of being master of something, right? It's impossible. You need to be in several projects and work there. So I started to cleaning out those things that was a little bit fake and pointing to those things that was me, and I had things to talk about because I worked with them. So being honest. And more importantly, the job applications that you are going to apply, the relevance between your CV and the job application. I was trying to apply for a front-end position, front-end development position, but I had a lot of back-end, let's say, skills. And my CV in the beginning looked like I'm a back-end developer, while I wanted a front-end job. So I started to also cleaning up those things, like making those points outstanding. And it's about those jobs that you are applying. And lastly, well, I'm not a native English speaker, and of course, English is not as perfect as a native one, right? So, while I write everything on my own, back then, there was no, I think, Grammarly or something that I could check the grammars easily. So, I had a lot of mistakes, like grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, were annoying. So I did not catch them. So I spend more time on my CV to refine them. I show it to different people and I ask, can you please tell me what is wrong here? At least the error mistakes like spelling. So make your CV very clean. I ended up having only this page as my CV. Only one page. Back then I was working since 2000, maybe, 7 or 10, and even try to remove some of my work experiences. If you're applying for a development job and if you've been a bartender for 6 years, it really doesn't matter for recruiter. They are looking for your front-end skills, even if it's 1 year. I understand for junior positions, especially for those who are coming to, development or any jobs, and you have 1 year, probably your CV is a bit empty in the beginning. I understand that. But putting bartender 6 years experience, it just does not add any value. In fact, it might have a negative impact. So focusing on those years, 1 year, 2 years of experience, and standing them out is much better than focusing on your past, which is irrelevant to the job that we are applying. And that's exactly what I did to my resume. So started to writing out all those experience into one page, which was very hard, by the way. It's not an easy job to do, so you need to spend time to find out. And that was my resume back then in 2000, maybe 16 or end of 15. Then started again to apply for jobs. This time was different. This time was very different. Almost all the jobs that I applied, they replied. Either they said, well, okay, so you are rejected, or you are approved and you can go to 2 interviews. And I went for interviews. I had, over a year and a half, around 50 interviews. And I failed 49 of them. So it was a very tough, I was very serious to come to Europe. So I wanted to come to Europe. So I wanted that to happen. Another thing about the resume here is that, well, not everything that you can put on one page, you have experience, a lot of experience, or you have a lot of things that you want to say, but you still have other tools under your hand. You can build your website. You can and building a website, especially in 2022, it's cheap, free, nice, you can get it everywhere. If you don't have a website, you want to apply for a job, and you do not put up your website, it's because probably you're lazy. Because tools are there, and they are even free. Within 10 minutes, you can get a beautiful website up and running in different, if you search on internet. You need to search for your profile, update your social media, especially for job and recruiting, social media is important. Especially LinkedIn, have it updated and reflect your resume. So you have a resume that should go also to your website as well as your LinkedIn and other social media. They should be kind of sync. And when you have something that you cannot put up on your resume, here is the chance. You can write them in details on your websites. write blogs, write about your experience that you cannot put on your resume, and you can have them on the website, blog posts, LinkedIn, whatever social media that you have, and then add a link to your resume. So then give an opportunity to recruiters or an engineering manager or someone that go and look at those, things that you've done. So this is important because when I recently, in the last 2-3 years, now I am a different position. I'm conducting interviews. I am interviewing people a lot in my company. Like almost every week I'm meeting someone and I read a lot of, resume. So I have to tell you that I spend time looking for that person which I think it can be a good fit for my company. I search on internet, I found website, I click on those links that they put on the resume. So if a company is serious to hire someone, they will do that. So then spend time and refine them. It's important. I went for interviews. Well, it started. Now, nice. I have resume. I got answers. I applied for more than 100 jobs. I have an Excel sheet that I can show you later as well, in private though. So which company I applied, which date, and I went to interview with many companies, almost like 30-40% of those jobs that I applied, I interviewed with them in 2015-16. And I had a job tracking template, which I put it in this slide. You can get this slide later. You can click on this and you see an example of what I have done back then. So I had a slide here, and this Excel is actually something that was improved over time. It wasn't looking like this in the beginning, then it started to becoming better and better over time. And I'll show you why this is important. You're applying for jobs. Well, which company you applied? In the beginning of applying for jobs, because I was applying for a lot of jobs, so I realized that I applied for some companies twice or 3 times. I did not notice that because there was nothing that I tracked. And this is very unprofessional. You apply for a job and then a few weeks later, again, you apply for that job, even though you get rejected. Because, well, you are in the process, you're overwhelmed, you get a lot of response, you just lose track. That is happening to everyone. So I started to creating this Excel, at least writing down which company, what date, what was the response, and all of those things. And I had 2 important sections here, which I want to talk about. My strengths and my weakness. Each interview that I went, I wrote about, after some time, not in the beginning, I wrote about my strengths in the interview and my weakness. So someone is asking, interview, to my opinion, interview is a great opportunity for learning. Because you're applying, you think you're good for that job, they're coming asking you a question you don't know. That is the time you don't know. You need to write it down. You need to go later, find out why you don't know that. You need to know that. That is relevant to your job, your position. So that was exactly what I've done. So started to writing down what was my strengths. Oh, I was very good at speaking. I could easily speak, negotiate, but I was very weak at technical part, maybe. I could not answer this question, but I could answer the soft skill questions, or the other way around. I could not answer a question about this topic, like I didn't know about Docker in the beginning, but then after a year, because I realized that in 10 of my interviews, that is my weakness, I started to learning Docker. Those companies need someone that knows at least basic of Dockers. So I learned it. So this is the way that you can improve yourself, and I have done that. So these 2 sections are important. I told you that, like, there are times that you see the top of the pyramid, those things that you really know. In an architecture world, I've been working as solution architect in the last 2 years. In an architecture world, so there is this pyramid, very, very famous one, which is saying that you know the top of the pyramid, you are very skilled at someone, and you need to, if you want to have a better, opportunities, you need to improve the technical breadth. Technical breadth means you need to know what you don't know. At least you need to know what you don't know. And there are millions of things that you don't know. That part, that's okay. But if you're working as a front-end engineer, if you're working as whatever engineer or not even engineer, something else, in your job, you need to read about it. Expose yourself to newsletters, to websites, to social media. Not overwhelm yourself, but learn about those keywords. At least you know something is happening in the world of your, work. Sorry. And another thing that I learned over these year and a half of applying and rejecting and so on and so forth was being a consistent learner. I wrote about it as well on my blog. You can read in depth there. So how I could achieve that. But consistency is a key. You're getting rejected, that's fine, but you're learning from your process. You're learning from your process. There are millions of jobs out there. Don't worry about it if you are losing 10 of them or 50 of them. You might get the next 21. You don't know. But if you continuously learn, that's exactly something that you will achieve, being a consistent learner. And the most important thing that I can tell you, discipline. Discipline is the most important thing that I have to tell you. I was rejecting over a year and a half, but I was waking up over a year and a half at 4:30 a.m. every day to learn something new to improve my English. I did it over a year and a half, every day, literally. No difference between Saturday, Sunday, weekends, holiday. Discipline was very important. I learned it by heart. I tried. And you see now I am speaking English, and my English is not very good yet. I'm still learning, but at least back then my English was terrible. That was one of my weaknesses. I could go to interview, but I could not speak well. Well, if I'm not able to speak well, communicate well, how can I convey that I am a good person for that position? I need to convince those people, right? But the key here is communication. I was not good at it, so I started to improve that part. And I did it. So discipline is important. Set a discipline. It's a very hard thing. There is a book recently I was reading. It's very interesting. I think it was about small habits or something, atomic habits. And I think the author was mentioning that if you want to make something a habit, discipline, of course, it's important. And discipline over 66 days makes a habit for you as a consistent habit. So then 2 months, at least 2 months and a half or something with discipline to make something a habit for yourself, like a habit of learning every day morning, that's the key. A lot of people, like 95%, maybe 90% of people don't reach to those 2 months. You do it months, you get tired, or there is something, life, this is life. I understand that. I've been there many times, and I'm still there. But having discipline makes you at least to reach your goal. Make something a habit for yourself. And another thing is, well, I think we have 2-3 more minutes, and I'll wrap it up. Expect unexpected, and that's the story that I'm telling you. I've been looking for a job in Netherlands and Germany mostly, other European ones as well, but I never looked at Norway, Sweden, or Finland. That was not, at least on my radar. And at some point I said, well, these countries are also nice. I don't mind go there. I mean, I can go there. At least that was one of the things that I told myself and my family. And, well, I applied for one job in Norway. I got an interview. I got a job. And I went to Norway. this is unexpected. Like, expect sometimes unexpected. Another thing that I got a job in Netherlands. I went through like 6 interviews, months of, back and forth. I thought that I got a job because I talked even until to the CEO of the company. That was not a startup. It's like a median size company in Netherlands. And I thought that I got the job because I'm talking to CEO. I mean, CEO is not wasting time to talk to me, right? I was like buying champagne and opening that night that I thought that I will get that. I actually opened the champagne. I was drinking with my wife, and on Skype, the recruiter told me, "Oh, we're sorry, we're not able to give you an offer." This is unexpected. Always expect those moments. And I learned from that point that I need to expect, even I'm going to the last step, I might not get it. So at that time, I was very disappointed, but the next one, I was not. Because I was always thinking, like, I'm not probably getting this. I should prepare myself. This is because when I say expect unexpected, it's because you need to be prepared for worst case scenario or very good ones. And at the end, you can do that. Well, at least I tried, I could. I'm pretty sure if I have done it, you can do it. Anyone can do it. So, in short, to wrap it up, 25 minutes on time, I try to analyze my problem, I learn from the process, and I improve myself with different things that I had for myself. I iterate over time, and I repeat it. And at the end of the day, the most important thing, I did not give up. So even though I was getting rejected so many times, still I continued, and I learned, and I learned, and I learned. So this is something that I came up at the end of the day. Be consistent and persistent. Consistency is the key, and also persistence. Don't disappoint. I mean, you lose one opportunity, but that's a point that you will learn from it. It's actually, any failure, to my opinion, is next step to the success. So then never disappoint. As I said, be prepared. Think about your ultimate goal, what it is, not that right things you're doing. Of course, never give up. Success is earned, is something that you will earn over time. You might get rejected many times in a year, but at the end of the day, you will get it. So many people have been mentored in different communities, and recently, a lot of, especially women in tech communities, I've been mentoring many of them. And many of them in the interview, like in a one-to-one session, told me that I don't think I can get a job. And now, every time I showed them this slide, and I said, yes, you should never say that, because that is actually very discouraging to yourself. You should always be courageous. You should always say, oh, I'm getting rejected. Oh, of course, but I'm learning next time. And many of those people who said that, now they have a job in tech. This is interesting and, amazing. Dream big. Well, there is a book also, I think, called Thinking Big. I strongly recommend you to read that book. So always dream big, not going for small things, but baby steps, of course. Focus on what you want to achieve, and always go towards your passions and what you love. And at the end of the day, I think you should be always humble. I write about these personal experience and tips and tricks and, short stories and sometimes text stuff on my newsletter. You can also find all of these things that I put on the slides in depth in my newsletters. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer right now. Otherwise, I will drop the mic. You can get connected with me with this handler, and you can also get the slides on slides.com/myhandler. So thank you very much.